What's up, everybody? Hey, listen, we are one step closer to getting the new motor put into the 86, and on this episode we're going to be relocating the battery to the trunk. So stay tuned. So got a little bit of daylight left. It gets dark quite early, but it is nice and chilly today on this Thanksgiving Eve. And I wanted to show you guys, since you got some daylight, the final results of the painted engine bay. So I think it turned out great. It's held up well. I've had to stand in it a couple times, and I actually stood on on the frame rails. And then I went ahead and bolted up some more stuff on it, like the Excel coil and the starter solenoid, which is going to stay there, and most everything else is pretty much ready to go. I know now's a good time to do other things like the steering shaft and the brake booster, but we're going to be holding off on that until I got some more time and money to take care of it. Okay, so for this job I've got a couple things here. We've got two 25-foot rolls or spools here of 1-gauge wire. So this is nice and thick. It's actually a really flexible, most likely a speaker type wire for high amps. But it is 1 gauge and it is a copper wound. So this is we're actually gonna run the positive and negative all the way from the back of the car to the front. I want to make sure we get good solid ground straight to the motor. So we got spools of wire, got 1 gauge positive and negative connectors, and we've got some terminals here. We'll need to open these up a little bit. So we'll need these to get grounds to the chassis and also to the fuse block. And we picked up the MegaFuse 175 amp fuse and the Mega Block holder. So this will go by the battery. We want to make sure we fuse that long wire. We'll be running to the front of the car. And I picked up a Summit Racing battery box here. So a pretty standard battery box. It's plastic, which is good. We shouldn't have any issues with worrying about something arcing to it or bending the aluminum or flexing it and burning a hole through it if it arcs. It's got a nice hard inside. This is really stiff. It's not very flexible. A little bit flexible. It comes with all the insulation kit. Looks like it comes with a seal. It comes with grommets. It comes with the brackets to hold down the battery and the vent tube and instructions. Hey guys, so hopefully you got a little bit more light in here. I did upgrade some lighting in the garage, and we'll probably be working very soon with the garage door closed because it is getting kind of cold. And we should have plenty of light in here now, so that's cool. I did that for you guys. Yeah, you're welcome. Not really. I did it for me. It helps us both out. But anyway, so the only bad thing about these battery boxes, well, a couple bad things I think, is obviously it takes up real estate in your trunk, and it does block speakers here on the 86s because the 6x9s are basically right here. The only other option would be to move it to a location, say here, and then try to run the cables that way. And that would be preferred for me if I have enough cable. So we'll just see, if the 25-foot is enough. And I think it should be. Looking at it, it looks about 15 so foot from here up to the front of the solenoid. And I want to make sure that my battery fits forward. So this has always been a non-standard size battery to a Mustang Fox body, but nonetheless it is a bigger battery, and that's a good thing. A little bit more capacity, and I measured it out compared to this online, and it should fit, but let's just make sure before I start doing any more work. Ooh. Pinch your fingers, but it fits. Okay, so on this size battery, I have no idea what size battery this is. I'm sure it's labeled somewhere here, right? But anyways, it is absolutely, there is no side to side in it at all. There's a, looks like where the shrapnel would go, the handle, that is right up against the side. But it's not rubbing, and it fits perfect. So this is cool. If I ever want to go down to a smaller size battery or Optima, I know it will fit. In case y'all didn't know, I like meat, and I like smoking it. I got a nice plume of smoke coming out of this guy here. So real quick, before we get back to the battery, I want to show you guys my smoker I made out of 2 air tanks a couple years back and painted it copper and red. And I've got air control here. Right now the fire is way too hot, so I'm trying to cool it down. But smoking me some ham. smoking ham and bacon burn-ins down there. So, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Now back to it. Sorry about that detour. Back to it, guys. Hey, listen. So, obviously, placement is key here. So, where you want to put it, you don't want to make sure that your box is not too high that it hits the top of your hatch when it's closed. So, we're going to verify that. And you want to figure out what side you want to put it on. Ideally, you want it on the passenger side to help balance out the car, since you'll be sitting in the driver's seat. I'm not that worried about weight distribution that much in it. However, moving it to the back does take a significant chunk of weight off the front of the car to the rear over the tires where it needs to be. That being said, the tires are not here. They are right over the back of the back seat. So right now I'm thinking about putting it here if possible. I think it's a good spot for it, and it doesn't get away in my straps. So since this is not a purpose-built race car, I want to make sure I retain my carpet, and I want to make sure I retain, you know, the cardboard underneath it for my spare tire. I won't have a spare tire in here because it doesn't fit. But if I ever do want to carry a spare tire, I want to make sure I've got room back here for it. Or if I ever want to carry some drag slicks with the seats down, I also want to compensate for that. So I've never done this before, at least not on this car, so I'm going to go over a few just different locations and try it out and kind of see what's best for me. But right now, this is good simply because this strap right here is meant to hold down your T-tops. If I ever get a T-top bag, this will hold it down, but this would be in the way anyways, so the T-tops aren't really going to ever fit back here like they should. So that's another thing. I mean, I take the T-tops off when I do it. It's always, you know, it's always at a random time and location. It's never planned, so they're always in the back of the trunk. So maybe we should, you know, turn it this way and hopefully give me some room to slide the T-tops here. So let's see if that will work. So as long as my battery cable, the length I have, is going to accommodate for this location here, I think we're going to shoot for this spot right here. So to give you an idea of how long 25 foot is to this car, you can see I've got it running here just along the side of the car. And I've got plenty. So there's more than enough room to route this battery box anywhere in the car that I please to run it. Okay, so it's like 30, what's the temperature in here? It's 60, but it's like 36 degrees outside right now. That's pretty cold for us Texans, but the garage is staying nice and comfortable at 60. And you can see I've got a whole bunch of LED lights now installed, and the garage is much brighter. So hopefully you guys can see what we're doing a little bit better. But what we're going to start doing now is really just removing some of the interior pieces. So I just need a Phillips screwdriver and start pulling up some of the trunk carpet and the door sills so we can find a nice route to try to get to the starter. The kicker here, or what's I guess the hard part is, first of all, we're running two cables, so it's going to be, you know, two 1-gauge cables running down your sill here, so it's going to be pretty thick. We're going to try to bind those together as tight as we can and make those fit, and then we're going to have to find a way to get from the door here, or from the floor panel, to the underside of the car without basically feeling it or without getting in the way of anything else, and without finding a way that will chafe and strip the cable wires and actually cause arcing, because the sheathing on these is actually pretty thin. Well, I take that back. It's not thin, it's pretty thick. However, it's a silicone base, so it's really squishy, and this will cut easily. So you don't want to run this near any really metal. The ground's not that big of a deal, with the power, we don't want to run that where the sheet metal can scrape and the vibrations can cause this to cut through and arc and cause a fire. We do have a fuse in place to prevent that, but still, nonetheless, we want to make sure anytime this goes in and out of any kind of metal, we want to put a rubber grommet on it and make sure that there's no sharp edges on the middle that'll cut through this cable. Okay guys, here's the deal. So where I want this battery box is going to essentially put it right above the gas tank. In fact, anywhere you put it in this, I'm holding a knife, I know it's weird, but anywhere you put it within this vicinity here, basically the back of the gas tank stops right about here. So from here all the way back here is gas tank. And don't forget, you've got your fuel lines, your vent line, your return lines, and the electrical wires that feed your fuel pump going through this area right here. So you've got a lot of things that we want to be careful with. I think what I'm going to do is scrape this stuff off to get some bare metal and find out where I want to locate this and actually weld in a nut where I can screw these into. So if we basically put a weld in on the bottom of the floor of basically a nut just flat to the floor on the outside, then allow me to screw these in to the weld here on both sides like this, and then your strap goes across and then holds the whole thing down. And that'll be plenty strong without having to drill through the hole and actually drop the gas tank. Because right now, as it sits, if the gas tank is out of the car, this would be a lot easier. So gas tank's not out of the car. I'm not going to drop it yet because I still need a lot of parts for the gas tank. I do have to drop it later, but I'm not going to do it right now. And I still think this is the best solution without having to drill holes in the car. But anyways, let's start peeling back some of this sound deadening material. Also, when you're thinking about where to mount this, I mean, you could put it here, put it there, you can put it here if you wanted to. I mean, it really has a lot of options. I'm going to put it here. It seems to fit nice and flat right there. But also take into consideration where you're going to route the cables and where you're going to come out of the box in. So you can bring the cables out of the box anywhere you want. You have to drill holes to stuff them through, but I mean, do you want them to come out here, along the back, around? Do we want to come around this side and have it run under the carpet, which is what I'm going to do, by the way. Or do you want to run them low, run them high? So something to think about. You don't want to maybe put this in, cut the holes here, and then realize your cables are going to come out in an odd angle, and you've got to mount your fuse block somewhere. So the idea for me is to go ahead and try to get these cables out probably the back side, and I'll run it down the back of the cable so you really can't see it. And then in the carpet here, I'll run the fuse block in the spare tire carrier area. I'm going to probably take the spare tire out. It's not going to work anyways, it's 4-lug. And then we'll put the fuse in here along the floor, and then we'll have plenty of room to run the cable along the side of the car up to the front. That's the plan. Okay, so I'm just kind of going with it. So I went ahead, set the box in place with the battery, use a screwdriver with the brackets, and just kind of twist it around so I can at least mark. You probably can't see this on camera, but there is, let's see if you can see it right there. Yeah, this mark there, and you can see one. Yeah, you can see it. There's one there, and there's one on the other side over here. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes, just to get an idea of where it sits on the floor and how I'm going to mount it. Underneath it anyways. I decided it'd be best if I went ahead and bolted it in. However, the spot that I want, I can't get to anyways. In fact, it's not the gas tank that's really the problem. The problem is that there is a bracket that is almost like a subframe bracket or an L-shaped bracket that comes off the bottom of the floor and then up, and it actually holds the mount of your fuel filter you can't get in there. So it's basically a shape like this. The floor is here, and my bolts are going to be going right inside this tube, basically. So I can't get to it, and in fact, I did confirm that it's a safe spot. I'm not directly above the gas tank to be welding. I just don't want to burn through. So always be safe and be careful drilling through these guys. Welding near a gas tank. It's got gas in it. So I don't have any fumes, and I don't have any open lines. So we'll be fine. But first, let's get this plating off. Okay, so essentially these are welded in now, and these studs are screwed in. They're nice and strong. You can see if you pull on it hard enough, I mean, really you're just bowing the steel around the area here, but it's sturdy. So the studs just fairly, I mean the nuts fit now flush up into the box. So I'm going to test fit the battery, make sure it fits in there. So just test fitting the battery here. I got a little bit smarter, learned that it's hard to take the battery out, so I got an old truck strap here. I'm just going to drape it in here so that when I remove it, I can pull it up easier, because there's just no way to really just grab a good handle on the sides of it. Dang. Ow. Fuck, that pinches you every time. Okay, so clearly I had this on wrong, and that fits much better. It doesn't bind inside the box, and it allowed me to pull it down. So you'll put these washers down like this, and then run these screws down on it. Now what we will need to do that'll tie it all down. Now this looks like this is going to stick out just a little bit too much. It's not far, because the lid is actually has a nice area up in here that's pretty high. Now yeah, we need to cut it just maybe 1/4 of an inch. So we'll cut about this much off the threads, and that should give me enough room to screw this thing down. Okay, so I cut these down just a little bit shorter, and make sure they screw on. They do. So I cut them off flat, and then just, you know, made sure I cleaned up the threads on them. Find where to cut the carpet by pressing the carpet down real hard on it and looking for the indentions of where these nuts have protruded. So now you can see very clearly here where I've cut them out. The marks were perfect. I was able to cut the juke on the back, cut a square out of it, and then press down on it again, mark the bolts, and actually cut the holes for the bolts as well. So the carpet now is ready to accept the box exactly where I wanted it, which is right here. And in fact, we need to test fit the battery again on it, because I didn't really account for the thickness of the carpet. It's not going to be much, like this much, but it is going to shorten the screws a little bit. So likely I would have had enough thread without cutting the carpet. But we're going to put it all in, make sure everything works before I start doing any kind of wiring. Hey guys, so that is where the battery is going to go, and it is permanently mounted. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It looks like I'm carrying a mini cooler everywhere I go. In fact, it'd be really cool if this thing was painted like a Coolman cooler. That way it'd be hidden, like I'm always taking a trip. Hey, I may do that, I don't know. But it's very secure, guys. I mean, you can see I'm moving the car with it. I'm not moving the battery box. The car is actually moving. So, it's very solid, and I think tomorrow I'll start running the wires. And we don't want to forget the vent tube. There's going to be a vent tube that runs, well, wherever we want it to run. I'll probably run it out here, vent it somewhere through here to the fender well. But I guess we could vent it to the floor too. I probably could just drill a hole. As long as it's vented. It's got to be vented, so. But man, that is looking pretty good. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for the running of the cables. But that's the biggest hurdle. I think the biggest hurdle is done. So we'll see you guys tomorrow.